In this video, we're going to discuss price gouging in the Milsurp gun market. Also, before we start, just so I clear it with the AI, which is always watching, when I mention prices in here, I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just talking historically values and kind of current ideas. Nothing in this video is for sale, nor am I trying to sell any type of product or anything. Also, if you would please hit the like button and subscribe. It helps with the algorithms. And if you like content like this, say so down in the comment section, and I'll try to keep coming up with content along these lines. Alright. Common thing is, we all know the price of Milsurp guns has skyrocketed and is out of control. There are a lot of people who just make a video and go to a gun show and look at the prices and that, but we're going to get a little more in depth here. Try to explain the mechanism behind it. Now, and also the price fluctuations. Okay, the market does change. Okay, and I'll go over historically where it has with some different examples. The first two examples I have here is a round receiver Mosin and M39 made in 1943, probably one of the most common guns a few years back, 10 years ago, that came out, and we all know that you could get these with all the accessories for about a C note or a little bit under without the accessories. Alright. Then we have a finish M39. Okay. This also, 40 years ago, I bought one of these for less than a C note. Okay. Nobody really knew the difference. Information on all of these weapons was limited, and no matter how many years you collected, until you got an example and went and looked it up, you really didn't know nothing about it. Alright? What is the difference between these two guns? Realistically, a 9130 like this, good shape, good bore, whatever, you're looking at 3.5 C. Alright? Is about a fair price. Alright? The M39s is 7.5. Alright? Is that price gouging because it's just a finished gun or whatever? Alright? What it is they made 37 million of these Russian M9130s, and they only made like 300,000 or 400,000 of these M39s. So yes, this gun is rare. This gun is an example of taking this old weapon design about as far as you could, and with improvements. Okay, so it kind of holds a historical spot, and they are rare. So, are these justified? Well, ever since they cut off the supply, any Milsurp, say, bolt action rifle that's common, that's complete, not screwed with, has all the markings in it, right at this time, 3.5 is about a fair price, irregardless what it is, for any common model. Okay, I know a lot go higher, and I have seen a rifle like this at a gun show with a $1,000 price tag on it. Now, no way in hell any of these guns are worth that much, okay, with 37 million of them made. I don't know if these people are fishing or just crazy, and I've seen them on a gun broker go as high as 1.2K. Alright? So yeah, that's insane. And that is price gouging or being highly unrealistic. Okay. This one here, 7.5, kind of the going rate. I did not, and you can find them. You can look around on a gun broker and you can find about 4 or 5 of these up for sale. So they're not that rare, or what it is people know it's a gun in high demand and they're trying to get the big ticket price. Okay. I did get this off the gun broker at about, when it was all said and done, about 15% less than the going rate. Okay, around in that ballpark. So I could live with that. A little bit of a instead of paying that sales tax and that, which would be about 10 or 12% over the said value of said piece. So again, how bad do you want one of these? You gonna fork over the money or not? Okay, or look around, maybe you could find an auction or something, or see one come up available for less money, but it's going to take time. You gotta look. All right, now we have two other extremely popular, the M1 Garand and the US M1 Carbine. Now, going back to the 80s, prior to 1988, when they imported all this stuff from overseas and the Milsurp Plus market was flooded. I'm talking the late 70s, all right, early 80s. An M1 Garand went for about $400. And something like this gun, somebody bought this back in the late 50s, early 60s. And my grandfather told me that was before the 1968 Gun Control Act. You just ordered the damn thing in the mail and was sent to the house. And I think it was $85. And they were sent brand new, unissued. This one here is dated 1946. And the person whose estate I got this out of, that's how it was purchased. And at the time, for something like that in mint condition, okay, it doesn't have, it's got the date of General Motors 1946, I believe, on there. So this wasn't issued in the war. It was probably an overrun and kept in storage all those years. 180, okay, just under 2C. This going rate was 4.5. If you could find somebody with a decent one. They were around, but people didn't really like parting with them, okay? Whether they got them through the DCM or bought them surplus in the 50s and that, you don't know. The 80s come, okay? They dumped tons of this stuff. Every country, England or Great Britain got rid of all of their Lee Enfield rifles. Some of them were brand new in the wrapper. They were all out of the reserves. The French dropped all their Moss bolt-action rifles. A lot of countries, Argentina, all of them sent all their old bolt-action rifles back, and a lot of guns came from Korea. A lot of these firearms were given away to South American countries as aid. They all came back into the country as surplus, okay? So the price on an M1 Garand and the ones in Korea, they were shot out. They were bad. Blue sky. If you ever see something with blue sky stamp, stay away from that gun. Okay? You could get them for about a little over 2, 2.25, 2.5. But generally they were pretty worn out, had to be rebarreled and all that other stuff. But they were complete guns, so you kind of could say you were buying a kit. I bought 2 or 3 of them and they didn't shoot worth a damn. They were shot out, worn out. But if you went to a gunsmith and had a new barrel put on, had the gun tuned up, maybe replaced some parts, you could have a new M1, but you're getting back to that $400, 400 C-notes. Okay, the carbines came in. And some of them were worn out. What they did is they took them, they were so beat up, my guy told me, they took the stocks off, steamed them, got all the dents out, and then put some weird stain on there, like a redwood stain, and you get them for 1.5 C. And I had 1 or 2 that they shot pretty well. Of course, I knew a guy had one that was so worn out, the bullets would keyhole. So you were, it was hit or miss how you got them, okay? But it dropped the price down on them. Gradually, the price went up to prior to 2008 crash of the housing, 2008-2009. Garands got up there. It was gradual. They were going. They went 5, then 6. And if you had nice GI ones with a good stock or some that were, rebuilt for competition shooting, they got up to a K. M1 carbines, since I had this, I never really looked. Okay, but their price obviously must have went up somewhat. Just a rough guess, say they went up to about 5 or something, 5 or 6, that's right, I forget, I praised one for a guy. The carbines, these are going for about a C or a little under. These are going for about 6. Okay. Then you had the big collapse of the housing market, and people were out of work. I was. People needed cash. So when it was hard to find an M1, I went to a gun show in the middle of this. And next thing you know, there's a guy, and even a gun shop. They got him in Iraq, okay? I went to a gun show, there'd be 6 of them in Iraq. I went to one gun shop, he had 2 of them up there. And they were down to around 8, 9. Okay, so when you're going broke, and hat in hand, if he's selling them for 9, he might have paid you 7.5 for them. Okay? And they went down again. Okay? M1s I didn't really look at, but probably you'd say they dropped down to 5 or 4. Okay. As the economy picked up, you would see that these guns would disappear from the racks and disappear, and then they went back up to about 12 again. And that was kind of where it was. Okay, say 10 years ago. Again. Now, they brought some in. Royal Tiger found a big cache of M1 carbines. So when Royal Tiger brought that gun in first, sold them out. Now the price went to 12. 1.2K, 1.5K. And some they're in nice condition and everything. You're looking at 2K. Alright. Currently, I went to a gun show about a year ago, and I seen a young man walking around with a Garand, and I asked him what he paid. And he told me that the guy had one, and it was military, gun, correct. You're looking 1.5. He said the guy was asking 1.8, but he probably got it for 1.5K. Alright, and I mean really nice ones with the stock cartouches that, look 100% in fantastic shape. Okay, from government stock, probably reworked or whatever, or, I didn't look into the specifics. They were well over 2K. Alright, I mean, they were nice guns, but you're looking at 2.3, 2.4, okay, which they made 1 million so of these. I don't know how many millions of these they made. Okay, so there's been an attrition. A lot of them have been destroyed, scrapped, and tore apart over the years. But it's not exactly a rare gun. Okay, so, is it price gouging? Now, I heard they're going to manufacture new ones. They did that in the 80s. Somebody tried starting up in the late 70s, early 80s, making brand new M1 rifles. They were quite expensive. They were, I think, 8, round up in there, 8.5. Okay, but you can get a new one. Now, this is at a time when a used one was 4. Alright? And I think I was at Fort Bragg in 1982, and I was talking to some guys in that division there, and one of the guys had one of these brand new made M1s, and we all took a look at it. I mean, it was a really nice gun. But HC notes, depending on your rank, was more than a month's pay back then, okay? Or just about complete month's pay, take-home pay. So you didn't see a lot of them, and then when the flood of the surplus things came out about 5 years later, it totally wiped out that project. Now they're going to bring it back again, so we'll see. Those are the going rates. Is it gouging? Like I said, several people brought the point up. There were millions upon millions of these two guns made during the war, and there millions of them were out there. Do they warrant that price? You know, personally, no. So I can see where you say it's kind of price gouging. And Springfield, 03A3, I have one. Smith Corona 6-group barrel. I went to a gun show, say, 15 years ago. Asked the guy, what's it worth? He goes, I got one right there. 6 is what he was asking. Okay. Now I see him 1.2K, 1.5K. Alright, depending on the condition. And mine's nice. Still has the stock cartouches, everything. Beautiful, mint condition. So you're more than double the price. Okay, in 10 years. So, I don't know. Would I buy one for that? Okay. At a time where they were real nice, $100.50 too. You know, you can pick them up for $100.50 all day long back in the 80s, you know, depending on condition. But, you know, again, so, and you know, you try to say supply and demand and that, like I said, there are millions of these made. So, is it gouging? People may have a point there. Let's look at another couple examples here. We'll start with the N95 Austrian carbine. Now, a bunch of these that were cut down from long rifles are brought in, and I think when they first come in the giant batch, these things were selling for like 50 or 60, you know, dinero. And there were tons of them. By the time, I never really bought any because I was involved in buying a house, didn't have no spare cash. But then I ended up picking them up all around the C-note, you know, after the supply kind of dried up and they were floating around everywhere. So I ended up picking a bunch of them up in that price range and built a halfway decent collection. You know, anywhere from 1 to 1.5. You know, and if I found one with weird markings or in really good shape, yeah, I'd pay 1.5, whatever. And built a nice collection. Now, these were going on the high side, an example like that for 4C. And I put one up on a listing for 4 and it hasn't moved. You know, nobody's jumping on it. I've seen them go for that in auctions. But is it realistic? Is it going to come true? Ammunition is expensive unless you reload. I don't know if anybody makes current loaded ammo. Maybe PPU does. But again, it's quite expensive. And even reloading this now, if you can find the brass and the right diameter bullets, which can be sold out, it's tough to get inexpensive ammo for these guns. But still interesting. And another one, FR8. Now this is an unusual gun. I can't remember. When these things came into the country, I really didn't touch it because it wasn't a classic Mauser. Like I was collecting Mausers, 09, whatever, all the different actual Mausers. This is something made up. I think they weren't that inexpensive when they came in as compared to what I could get like a bolt action gun for. So I kind of shied away from it. The supply dried up. This one here, the FR8 built on 8mm action, is more popular. It is a neat gun. It is fun to shoot. Okay, it's unique. But the thing is, for me to get information about it, I passed on them years ago. And I remember the gun shop, they had one. And the guy sold it for like 5C instantly. And this is going back well over 10 years, more like 12, 13 years ago. Back then. and people snapped it right up. Now the current rate is about 7.5. And there's plenty of them out there. Okay, if you got deep enough pockets, I proved that I picked up several examples, okay, but a little bit on the high side of the price range. But if you want to pay, they're floating around. So as being rare, can't say that. You can find these listed. You find these in most gun auctions. And I bid on and in the auctions, and yes, people pay pretty much that price. Okay, with an auction, you have to realize, whatever that hammer is, a lot of places, when it's all said and done, between the commissions, this and that, you're adding 40%. So if somebody put in a bid of 5.5, he will end up paying close to that 7. So when you see somebody trying to sell for 7, basically I think they're just trying to get their money out of the deal. So again, you could go buy one that's got a busted stock and all beat to hell and everything, but still, even if you get a new stock, which they were available, the wood alone was selling for $2C. So add that to one or whatever, or you buy 2 guns, try to put one together, and 4 or 5. I don't like rebuilding, okay? I don't have the time or patience anymore, and trying to find parts can be a royal pain, so I just get them as is. But now, so, is it warranted at 7? People were paying for these. I do know the long rifle versions are kind of hard to find, and they can go, if you want a long rifle version, that's much more difficult to find, and that could raise the price up a little more, than before. But I really haven't seen people going crazy over these or paying a lot for them. Alright, these here, they're round, but they come with a price tag, and I've seen people ask 8C to 1.2K for these, okay, with bayonet sling on it, which 1.2K, I don't think it's justified. You could buy a brand new Set Me C rifle for that amount of money, okay, with a 1-year warranty, parts and labor, okay, so, buying a surplus gun for that? No. Now the big question is, will these prices come down? And like I explained with the M1 Garand, they go up, they come down. Right now, the economy really is in turmoil. It's insane. Nobody knows what's going to happen. There could be a global collapse. They're saying another housing market bubble may burst here, okay, which is going to wreak economic havoc, okay. So no matter what you're looking to buy, a home, a new car, or a surplus rifle, this will have an effect one way or the other. If money's real tight and the economy sucks, people are going to go to sell. So when you have everybody trying to sell these things for a super high price, okay, and nobody wants, this is when the price can come down, and what you'll do is, depending on how bad these people wish to get rid of their stuff and how much they'll lower the price, that's where you can kind of come out ahead. Once people get it set in their head that something's worth some money, and like I said, this example here, this is an example, and the 9130s. There's no way that a round receiver World War II production M9130 is worth even close to a K or 1.2K, like I've seen some advertised for. No way. There's nothing special about them. There's nothing unique about them. So yes, that is gouging. People are asking an exorbitant price. But on the other hand, people do pay that. Okay? So you can complain all you want, but somebody wants it bad enough and they got money to spend and don't care, they will pay it. Alright? So, you know, even though these prices, to me, you know, kind of ain't worth it, I wouldn't go out and buy any of these. Well, I did buy this close to what they were going for. But like these here, you know, at 4 and 5, I wouldn't really buy a bunch of them. You know, the finish gun, I did choke up some money for it, but you know, it's not a lot of them. I need it for some content, do some experimentation, and you know, hopefully the content and that will help defer the cost or memberships or whatever in the channel. So that's my thoughts on it, and that's just an example. You've seen these things go up and down. Right now, if you really are pissed off at the prices, save your money, have some money in a pool available, and when you see something you want, take a dip because of economic hardship or disasters, that would be the time to buy. Okay, and as far as price gouging, yes, okay, you can say in some instances that occurs. Like the people who put a $1,200 price tag on this, a K on a war production Mosin, that is price gouging. That's insane. That's getting out of control. There's no way that those guns are even worth a quarter of that, you know, basically. You know. So that's my thoughts on it. Stay tuned and I'll get some more out there.